Hello, everyone. My name is Adrià Duarte. I'm the coordinator of the International Observatory on Participatory Democracy, and I'm very pleased to welcome you all to this virtual peer learning session that we are organizing with the support of the UCLG Learning team. First of all, some technical information. Today, this session will going to be in English without translation. The session is being recorded, and we will be shared later on our website the video of the session and also the presentations. Please keep your microphones turned off while someone else is speaking. And after each presentation, we will give space for everyone to take the floor. You can use the chat to write down questions or comments through the session. And we also encourage you to indicate in your name the city organization that you're representing. Today, we're going to learn about the strategies to improve children and youth participation into government, into city, into territories. In this case, we have an experience from Accra in Ghana and another in Nuevo León in Mexico. Both participants will have about 10 to 15 minutes to make their presentations. And at the end of each presentation, as I said, you will be able to ask them direct questions. And at the end of the both presentation, we'll have a little moment also for discussion. The aim of these peer learning sessions is to help disseminate how citizen participation is implemented in order to improve democracy, the well-being of populations, and the state in our cities and territories, as well as to jointly address the challenges of participatory practices. Okay, so for this session, I will give the floor to my colleague Viviana Herrera for the facilitation of the session. So Viviana, I give you the floor.
Thank you so much, Adrià, and good day to everyone, and thank you for joining. First, we're gonna let the floor to Alejandra Silva, Coordinator of Capacity Building of the Government of Nuevo León in Mexico. And then we're gonna give the floor to Kofi Ocran, Civil Servant and Adjunt Lecturer at the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration in Accra Metropolis. And then we're gonna give some space for questions and comments from our audience. So Alejandra, please, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Well, Nuevo León is in Mexico in the north, and it has a border with the United States. It has a population of 5.7 million, and through in Nuevo León there are 51 municipalities. That is the territory size, and it's comparable to Ireland or Czech Republic. It's around 20,000 square kilometers, less than Portugal. So it's a very big state comparable to many countries. And that was just to put some context to it. If you can go to the next slide. In 2021, there was, with the new administration, the Ministry of Citizen Participation was created. And within the mission, and the vision was to create more confidence and a better relationship between the citizenship and the government. So the mission is to guarantee the right to participate, because it is a human right to all people in Nuevo León through mechanisms, spaces, and projects. And the vision is to become a national reference in participatory culture for public advocacy with an open government model. So within the Ministry of Citizen Participation, the goal is to have this participation have an impact in the environment and in the communities, but also collaborating with government for public spaces and to have better services in government. Can you go to the next slide? In this context of having this Ministry of School Participation, one of the population demographics that are sometimes left out are children and adolescents, infants, toddlers. And one experience that we had in 2022 was participatory budgets in schools. Participatory budgets they are managed at a local level. So as state government, we could do it in schools with certain quantity of resources. And we had this experience with these phases. The first was a random selection for group integration. So in each school, there was 4 teams, and they would be selected randomly in order to give a chance for everyone to participate, because sometimes it's about who raises their hand first, and this time it was randomly selected. And the second phase was a workshop with those teams within the schools so they could generate ideas for school improvement. And it was a 3-hour workshop where they made an exploratory march, and they identified what they liked, what they didn't like, and what they would like more of. In the third phase, with this project idea, they made project pitches, and there was a voting process. So the Electoral Institute went in and installed ballot boxes and printed ballots, and the children would make a project pitch, each team within the school. And there were really cool names in their teams, like the Aesthetic Kittens and the Agile Eagles. So they made their project pitches with their team name and their project idea. And the whole school, children, infants would vote. It was from 1st to 6th grade in a K-12. And well, the fourth phase was project implementation, and the idea would change a little bit because of resources, because of the possibilities. So there was a monitoring committee installed where some children that were part of the winning team would integrate this monitoring committee, and they would help the government understand if the idea was being met, the project idea was being met with the possible changes of these projects. And there were projects like, for example, make a basketball court in a parking lot. So instead of putting cars in there, children hoped for having a basketball court where they could play. Another one was some arts classes, some language workshops. So it was a variety of things that they wanted to do in their schools. There were 13 implemented projects in 13 different municipalities here in Nuevo León. And well, this experience gave us a lot to think about, a lot of lessons learned and a lot of findings. And if you can go to the next slide, it was a very beautiful experience. The workshops in the phase 2 were they were the youth institutes of the municipalities facilitated these workshops with the children. So it was very interesting to see the relationship between and young people too. These are some of the findings and lessons learned of this experience. And first of all, building participatory spaces requires time consistency. So a 3-hour workshop sometimes didn't manage to build the confidence that was needed and a common understanding of the impact that the participation would have. So these randomly selected teams required more time to gather information from their teammates and from their peers in order to have more ideas. Another finding was that children's involvement in decisions about topics that affect them require ongoing mechanisms or spaces. So it was very interesting to see that they wanted to continue participating, and they wanted more workshops, and they wanted for their peers to live the same experience that they lived. And well, because of young people helping through the workshop process, we managed to understand that to promote children's significant participation, there needs to be preparation and acquired experience with working with children. And finally, and this is like the summary of all the others, that the project design and the people involved need a child rights perspective. And not only the people that are directly working with the children's teams, but the design in the whole project design, even with people that weren't going to be face-to-face with the children. So with these findings and lessons learned, if we can go to the next slide. We have these bullets that of how we understand children's participation. And although it has been said, participation as a human right is the first one. So it involves all rights. So there has to be a right to express the free environment and without being contaminated, by opinions of others. And children learn to participate while participating. It is not expected to suddenly be learned. The child rights perspective is needed in public institutions, in all the services that children need, but also while designing cities, that needs to be this child rights perspective. And to align expectations with everyone involved, it's part of children's participations. So, for example, children need to know what expectations, what to expect when participating in these projects. And well, there needs to be skill development for opening these spaces and mechanisms. And if we can go to the next one, while we found all these things needed and how we understand participation, we designed with a local illustrator. We designed something that would be a little closer or that they would identify with. So these are characters that were made. We decided to, because of the need of the rights, the right to participate to be, well, strengthened, we made some content, and these characters are part of this content. So, for example, there's Carbeto, Aulex, Vallanita. They are characters that appear in our content, and all of them reflect a competence or a skill that is needed to participate. So we need to have social and civic commitment. We need to have self-reflection. We need to have empathy and perspective taking. And these characters reflect these skills that are desirable. And there are 3 more characters. If you can go to the next slide. These are insects, and the one in the middle in the other slide, Aulex, was created by children in the participation commission. They designed what kind of insect it would be. They chose the name, they chose the colors. So these are their friends. Tito, Pipi, and Polly are also, they reflect other skills like assertive communication and active listening, consensus building, to actively promote the way we make decisions in order to have dialogue and deliberation and not on the flow and go with what the majority wants, and create a solution. So propose creative alternative solutions to unwanted situations. These are 6 characters that are part of our content. And if you can go to the next slide, here's some examples of what this content has. So we made an activity guide that it's a guide for young and adult people in order to encourage and promote children's participation. We all know that at the moment that we are working with children, well, we need to ask questions and not give the answers necessarily, so you can promote children's participation. So these are some activities that we designed so that in schools and in other environments, participation would become the center of these activities instead of just guiding activities, but well, children still repeating or reproducing those things that adults say. So this is for young and adult people, and we also have a book for children that is in the next slide, and it's for them to have some activities that they can do individually, but also to understand the right to participate and understand different spheres, the individual one, the one with the community and family, and how this relates to how their participation can impact in public decisions and in things that affect them or interest them, like health or education. And well, in these contents, one of the most fundamental parts is that they are just activities, but they can be put together in an ongoing plan or in an ongoing space where they can work with participation. And if you go to the next slide, this content and is part of the one commitment that we have as part of the OGP. So as open government, we have these actions and projects to promote children's participation, like school mailboxes in schools, the Girls and Boys Participation Commission, where they have a work plan of a year long, where they decide in what topics they want to work on. These activity books and guides that are the ones I showed you, and also workshops for children's participation promotion. And this is where we try to not only put the child at the center, but the child as someone that has rights and not as someone that is not an adult, and by saying that they have not the same value in their opinions and their comments and suggestions. So these are some actions and projects part of the open government commitments, the OGP. And if we can go to the next, well, these are general, I think it's general recommendations that sometimes can seem obvious, but when we try to work with different ministries and with different spaces where children have been there for a long while, it's important to repeat. Children rights perspective in project designing, that's a must recommendation, because if children are involved in some way, there needs to be this perspective. And the activation of permanent spaces, a year long, 2 years long, so there can be a real understanding of the impact that children and the youth can have in government projects, and that will reinforce civic commitment and social commitment. The strengthening of institutional capacities and skill development in all ministries and public institutions. This is needed through workshops, through capacity building. We need to strengthen the institutional, the public institutions. And last, but actually really important, is to evaluate throughout the whole process. While having spaces and mechanisms, we need to evaluate if the way those spaces were designed are actually having significant participation of children and youth. Sometimes when we are reaching for a goal, we we forget the child rights perspective. So we need to evaluate constantly, especially the adult people that are guiding the process. We need to evaluate if we are not leaving the child rights perspective behind to reach a goal. So I think that is some of the recommendations that have come out with the experience in 2022 and with the process of designing these activity guides and books, which were constructed with people that work with children, but also with children. So that's important to say. They have to be involved in everything we plan and everything we design, because they have another perspective, and it's always needed to be heard. And well, I think that's the last slide, if I'm not wrong. And there's just well, the content is in Spanish, but there you can have some character coloring if you may, and other activity guides and books that you can consult. And well, I think that's everything on my part.
Thank you so much, Alejandra, for this sharp presentation about the work that you're doing from the government of Nuevo León to really include children in participation and let them exercise their right to participate. Congratulations for also embracing this human rights approach to participation, very relevant. And also it's a source of inspiration, these tools, these tailored tools that you have developed, no, like the cartoons that you made with the local designers. I think it's great and certainly a source of inspiration for our members and for everyone involved in children participation. So I would like to give the floor now to Kofi Ocran from the government of Accra in Ghana. But yeah, I see you there, Kofi. Thank you so much. Are you ready? I cannot hear you.
You need to turn on the mic.
1 second.
Now we
Can you hear now?
Yes.
Yeah. Good afternoon from Accra. And I'm happy to participate in this session. The focus of our presentation will be Accra will be the reference for our presentation, the city of Accra. And as a capital, the characteristics are not very different from many developing country characteristics. We've seen in the last so many years a huge rural-urban migration, leading to a bulge in terms of kids who are born, sometimes in poor economic neighborhoods. But the city obviously drawing from the country's commitment to the UN Charter, the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, formulates policies to implement to ensure that the kids are protected and also they participate in the larger governance issues of the country. So let me just walk you through just 1 second. As you can see, the slides, the population of Accra is 1.7 million. We've got 13 district governments, a pretty expansive city. The youth constitute about 56% of the city of Accra, and as I said, it's largely come as a result of the rural urban migration that we've seen in the last maybe last 30, 20, 40 years. Those of you whose your academic training or professional training takes you back to the structural adjustment period, where most developing countries saw many institutional reforms and the clawback on subsidies, etc. We saw the impact on the local government, and therefore this drift began where many people had to be in the big cities for employment. And we've seen that in Accra, and therefore it's had its own impact in terms of managing the youth. 1 second.
No, it's all the next one.
The next slide, yeah. Next slide. Oh, this is just this is an iconic okay. This is the city of Accra, as you can see. Yeah, this is okay. Let's go on the next slide. So just to give you a sense of the features of Accra. Okay, so you can see that you can just take a minute or two and watch what rolls up. You can ask me any question later on.
Recording in progress.
Right. Okay. So as I indicated at the beginning of the presentation, the government pays so much attention to the key issues that emanate from the Convention on the rights of the child. So government institutions like the Ministry of Women and Children and related agencies like social welfare do focus a lot on youth and children activities in this country. And as some of you may know, we've had a very enduring democracy here in Ghana. It's one of the most stable democracies which has lasted for quite a while. And one that itself should give an idea of how participation is of such importance to us. And therefore, the participation is not just, as it were, not left only to elected leaders, but we try to bring it down and also let the children begin to believe early in life that truly they're the future leaders. And so, many programs that are designed and organized help the kids to get an early sense of what is ahead of them as they make up in terms of age. And so using the city of Accra as a reference, as you see in the slide, because the city of Accra believes in inclusion of youth and children, in terms of even policies, we try to include them in ensuring that the budget that is designed will provide for activities that would let them begin to be responsible for community development into participation, etc. And some of the mechanisms are, for example, town hall meetings and open forums to give these kids a voice, because once they have the voice, and of course, it also, as it were, tend to influence the decision making, and so that's also very, very, very key. In the last 8 years, one major development has been the attempt by the current administration to get secondary school. In fact, basic school has always been free, but the nature of secondary school in Ghana is historically been designed to be boarding. So most people go to secondary school in Ghana, go to boarding schools. And therefore, it's going to take a long while to make boarding schools, day schools, as we find in the United States and Europe and other countries. So most kids go to boarding school in this country. And therefore, what the government has done is to, in order to ensure many kids have access to secondary school, is to make boarding school free, because that has always been the barrier for which some kids have not been able to go to school. And with that number growing, and the issues that have arisen, because these are policy issues, the kids have also have to come to understand what policy, if well designed, could impact on society. And so the free SHS in a way does not only primarily give the kids education, but also helps them to participate in the larger broader governance issues, which is something that I need to bring to our attention. Then, of course, national institutions like the National Center for Civic Education, which is basically to provide basic literacy and knowledge around governmental systems, the structure of government, citizens' responsibilities, etc., etc. And then, of course, get them also politically more educated. I mean, get some education around the politics of the country. Also, in that regard, get these kids engaged and give them some sound education as to what is expected of them, what they should also expect from the government, and etc. So this is as I said, the institutions that promote participation in this country. The next slide. Next slide. Okay. Yeah. So the lineup here is some of the initiatives that as it were help to give some practical meaning to what we mean by participation. As the world advances with technology, technology is applied in virtually every sphere of life. So we see for today the schools are being supported a lot by digital gadgets. Last week, the president launched one laptop for every secondary school child as a hope to not only help them with their schoolwork, but also begin to understand some of the many issues that of interest in the country that they are expected to appreciate at this point of their life in terms of social policies, civic engagement, etc. So that itself will be also an equipment to help them. As I said earlier on, we have the Free Senior High School Initiative, which the government launched almost 8 years ago. There's the technical training, and then there's also the STEM schools. These are dedicated schools, the science, technology, engineering, mathematics school, also to, as it were, enable the kids to get more competitive and get them properly aligned to the growing competitive technological world. And we have had initiatives from UN agencies in Accra, on programs like Better Life for Girls, Children Advocacy, and YALO, Youth in Agriculture. One of the things that we've done under this government is a program called Planting for Food and Jobs, and that is really not new. When we were in secondary school many years ago, we had something called Operation Feed Yourself, and what that meant was that most secondary schools had a few acreages of a farm that they planted basic crops, and not on a commercial scale, but something just to let them appreciate farming and also grow, in very symbolic terms, the little that they could add on to the school's stock of food. So the Planting of Food and Jobs has been within the companies, this Youth for Agriculture, which is again to begin to let them appreciate the value of agriculture, not just as a sustenance, but even the agribusiness. Those who can begin to think or develop interest in agriculture as they grow, and for which the government will be able to support them and get agriculture to be thought of as big business, as we find in the advanced countries. The next slide. The next slide. Yeah. So what are some of the lessons learned? As we say, economic hardships or inadequate access to infrastructure impedes the participation of children and youth. And so we continue to improve on that. There's always a cultural context for who is a child, who is a youth. And of course, traditions and cultures are key elements that impact children and youth inclusion. As you know, in different societies, what are the limits for what a child can do? That's all defined sometimes by culture, And what we're trying to do, as the world gets modernized, is also to empower institutions that will actually also decentralize the efforts and outcomes of government activities, which will improve on the youth participation. What are some of the recommendations we're thinking about? So we implement report on child and youth participation. Government institutions, agencies should develop measures or mechanisms that monitor levels of children and youth participation, so we can improve on what we are doing, especially at the district level, at the local government, because that's where more of the issues of concern are, because many of the policies that are designed are really local oriented, are closer to the people. So if we're talking about participation by the youth, I think the focus should be in the communities, in the schools they attend, and so we think that's where much of the attention should. So we in terms of our political recommendations, that's what we make, and of course capacity building programs that should lead to some positive outcomes. And we believe that through the policy instrument of the free SHS, we'll be able to achieve that. And then resource allocation to cities should be based on population. Well, it's always been a big problem for countries, but we think it's still important to keep it on the menu and remind government that this is a very important thing to do in order to address the imbalances, even in the youth demographics, those who live in poor neighborhoods versus those who live in well-to-do neighborhoods, those who go to poor schools and those who go to rich schools, to try to address all of that as they all advance in age, maybe become responsible for national leadership, etc. And so that's the brief presentation that I would like to make at this point. Thank you for listening. Yeah.
And thank you very much to you for presenting, Mr. Kofi Ocran. Thank you very much for explaining to us all this integral strategy that you implement in Accra. Not only showing us how you are implementing capacity building activities, but also paying attention in the importance of the resources to actually get to take on these activities. I think it's very important, and more specifically in this context, such as the one in Accra or cities as in Nuevo León in Mexico, and even more at the local level, no? That we always have to fight for resources to implement our activities to get to a more inclusive participatory democracy. I see that more other people join the session, and so I'm gonna give the floor to the questions of the audience. So if anyone has a question, I'll give a few moments to see.
That's fine. Yes, I'll be more than happy to take the questions. Yeah.
Yes, Adrián?
Yes, thank you very much, Viviana, and thank you especially both of you, Alejandra and Kofi. It has been really two very interesting presentations, and congratulations for the work you're doing, because it's really broad, very broad initiative that it's really like very transversal, and it's different tools in both cases. So I think it's quite really interesting and important, no? And we have also this vision in our organization, in the observatory and in UCLG, the importance for this civic education, no? Since the most early age to be like teaching and teaching by doing, no? By doing this civic work, this democratic learning. It's so important to learn and to defend and to teach democracy since the early age. So I think it's really important the work you're doing. So congratulations. I think both of the presentations were very good. So I really don't have some like big questions, but yeah, maybe some just small details. Maybe if you want to explain better, it's one, it's the point that Kofi touched at the end of his presentation. It's regarding, we know, and maybe also in Nuevo León, and many countries, we have these inequalities in the reality of situations of population. So how do you face this inequality situation of the population? So it's not, for sure, it's not the same to address the child in more like middle class neighborhoods that in more poor neighborhoods. So which is the difference to address these inequalities, and how do you adapt the strategies to implement that? And also we'd like to know a little bit more about the also the coordination with the schools, no? Because it's in one side, it's the education program. It's in the school, okay, you're being educated to read, to write, and to more like the more specific things that you need to learn in a school, but also how you have this coordination between the schools and this work that you're doing since the institutions and the organizations to promote this democratic. No, it's really easy to do that with the schools, or sometimes it could be a challenge to coordinate with them. Thank you.
We're feeling that bit with child rights activism. So, for example, not too long ago, there was a national governance program that supported a child rights group here. And so the money that comes to the national governance program that goes to the child rights program help them to focus, because obviously it's not too much money, but the little money they get, they begin to design very impactful programs and gets the kids to understand activism, of course, very measured activism at the early age, and so on and so forth. So that's the way they help, especially the design also takes into account the imbalances that we are talking about. So for some schools, we will see more of the programs being featured there than others. Also too, because one, information is key. They are coming from homes where many of them don't have access to a whole range of information tools, etc. So the support that we give them also go to, as it were, help to the case to up the information deficit that they have, to address that, and then also to help them to understand what really is expected of them as they grow. So that is one mechanism that we've tried to use in the last so many years. And in that respect, the larger population is beginning to realize the impact, because we've seen a number of cases that has gone all the way to the Supreme Court, by some of these child rights activist groups that have gone to litigate on some child issues, which perhaps 30 years ago would never have featured in the Supreme Court. And kids who have either been molested or been thrown out of school, or kinds of things that we may find in typical developing countries. So we've seen the kids themselves, the activism, not physical, but at least you can see a sense of momentum, a sense of push behind these groups that lead the process when they need to be addressed, sometimes even in the court of law. So in that regard, I think that we've seen some progress there, and the coming out of the support that we've given some of these child activist groups. Yeah. Any more questions? Any more questions?
Thank you.
To ask you,
Maybe
Adria,
Alejandra,
if you
if
have
you
any...
want to.
Yes. Well, here in Nuevo León, there's more than a quarter of children from 0 to 15, and the inequalities are huge. So with the child rights perspective, what we try to do, and in very different ministries, is to name them, to be able to talk and to children about these inequalities, and by naming them, like an example during the participatory budgets in schools was to have a perspective from all different types and conditions and contexts of children. So, for example, some children never thought if their school was accessible to children that had some disabilities or any condition or any context. So naming it and being able to say it is one way that we try to give children these perspectives from the variety that exists, and how as children they can also be involved in making everyone's world better, and not only my environment or what is immediately in front of me. So that's what I want.
I think I want to put a footnote to what Alejandra, did I get it right? Did I pronounce it right?
It's likely, but yeah.
Okay, right. Okay, yeah. Just a footnote to that. What the free secondary school program has done is also to get kids from the base of the pyramid, the social pyramid, to gain access to very first class schools, high schools, which are exclusive, so to speak. But these are boarding schools, but these are boarding schools that go pre-colonial. And just like I believe in all the countries, you have such schools where the elite attend, the elite send their kids, which are government schools, but they almost, the quality of education given there is almost like a private school. And so what the government has been able to do is to create some quota to make it a matter of course for the heads of these schools to admit kids from rural Ghana to attend some of these very high class schools. And naturally, that's brought up some resistance from those who run the private elite basic schools, whereas some of the kids attend and obviously do well and get very competitive, and in admission to these high schools. And so that dreadful imbalance has also been addressed now with this policy, and so by sheer of that imbalance, it notionally even brings to this case the idea of participation. That effort is being made to get them to participate, even in terms of the educational space. The institutions available, they can attend the best. They are participating. They are getting involved, etc., etc. And so that is also one of the things that the free senior high school program has succeeded in doing. So
we cannot hear you, Mr. Kofi.
Yeah, we lost the sound.
Sorry, Mr. Kofi, we cannot hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Now, yes.
Okay. I think I started off by saying that what the free SHS has done is to enable kids from poor neighborhoods, poor economic backgrounds, who attend elite schools, which hitherto were preserved from children who came from elite primary schools. And because these kids in elite primary schools were more than adequately prepared to sit the entrance exams, and they would obviously do very well and gain access to these elite schools. And so with the government's free SHS, it's been thoughtfully designed to ensure that a certain quota, a reasonable size of quota, is reserved for children who come from rural Ghana and from poor economic backgrounds to have access to these elite schools, so that they can also, as well, get a sense that, well, if the schools are for the state, then we also have to participate in whatever it offers for the state. And so in a certain notional sense, it's very symbolic of participation, as we talk about. And when the kids go there, they begin to get a sense that we are also part of the broader society. We've been given opportunities also to rise. And so very early on, I think that the joy that they are in these first class schools, and the fact that they also look on to rise and then become the future leaders is drummed very hard in their minds. And so that was like a footnote I wanted to place at the presentation Alejandra made a short while ago.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kofi. I think it's even more than a footnote because it's very important always to make sure that no one is left behind in these participatory democracy initiatives and efforts. No, we're talking about Accra, this city in Ghana that even though it is labeled as a city, it still has a very important rural support, and that you are also advancing these interlinkages between the rural and the urban. It's also very symbolic, again, to strengthen a much more diverse and inclusive citizen participation. So thank you so much for this really important comment. And I don't know if anyone has any other question, because then if not, I would like to ask you more about the inclusion of girls, about the specific initiatives that you implemented to make sure that girls were also on board.
With the girls, inclusion of girls, I think that is done through the school system, where for example, growing up kids, once their biology begins to change, the monthly issues they have to deal with, and so some groups take the responsibility to provide free sanitary towel, etc., so that many of these schools do not have to skip classes. They go to school, and they stay in school for a very long time. In some parts of rural Ghana, it's changing quite a bit though, where girls were not particularly encouraged to go to school, because really, I mean, as used to be the case hundreds of years ago around the world, I mean, the kitchen was the ultimate office of a woman, but that has changed across the world. So many girls are now encouraged to be at school, and so all manner of mechanisms are at play to encourage them to go to school. And I think their parents also take pride. There's a lot of role modeling exhibition, so to speak, so that they can also be inspired by many of the ladies women who have also, as it were, risen up in society, that encourage. So there's a lot of some some unconscious activism also on that front to get many more girls to go to school. And these elite schools I talked about, some of them are girls' schools, and so again, the effort is made to make sure that girls from rural Ghana also get to some of these very, very elite schools and grow in confidence and exploit whatever potential there is for them also to, as it were, advance in life.
Thank you so much for explaining us.
Yeah.
I don't know, Perpetual, you want to say something?
Yes, good afternoon. Okay, so with the girl child participation, in the rural areas, we have this a number of selected schools across Ghana, and with the campaign for female education, that's the female child education, which is comfort. They are provided with the basic needs that they require as girls to be in school, that's including uniform, school bags, sanitary pads, basic school fees, and those kind of facilities to give them the confidence to be prepared for the education. Then we have the advocacy for girls as well, which also mobilizes them, teaches them a lot of these basic
I think yeah.
She's having connection issues.
Right.
Perpetual, can you hear us? Okay, let's give her a few moments to come back. I don't know if in the meantime.
Yeah, Alejandra, maybe if you want to follow.
When she comes back, she can finish that idea. In this experience in particular, what we tried to guarantee at its the least was an equal participation. The teams that were made in the schools were 50% and 50% boys and girls. And within the questions made when we made the workshops was if what they liked to do, what they didn't like, and the spaces in the school during the exploratory walks, if it was the same for girls and for boys. And in the monitoring committee, there would also be, well, in the pitch, there was a girl and a boy in the project pitch, and in the monitoring committee, there was also parity, one girl and one boy part of the monitoring committee. There are still findings in this experience particularly where, for example, the first one to raise the hand or to be insistent in their idea were mostly boys, maybe because of the ages were 8 to 10. They say that when the girl is 5 years old, there's some ideas that may make them think they can do this. So that's just something that we could see in girls and boys from 8 to 10. There's that lesson learned that we have to use different techniques and maybe use different group some girls and boys and then separately in order to be able to understand how they live the school in a different way. So that was some of the lessons learned, and we guaranteed the minimum that was parity.
Thank you so much, Alejandra. Perpetual, are you back now? Okay, I think she's not ready yet. And Alejandra,
I think also still talking about Accra. Accra is a magnet, just like all capital cities, and so there is. I mean, fortunately for me, I went to school in northern Ghana, which is a very poor part of Ghana, and I also went to school right at the coast, also the richest part of the city. So I know the country quite well. Now, so the rural-urban migration, which I talked about, has witnessed a wave of young women coming from northern Ghana, the poor geographical north. And many of them come here, and obviously streetism is part of their life. They give birth to kids. Sometimes, the fathers are not around to care for them. But as they get interventions from the local government, particularly from the city of Accra, and get many of their kids to go to school, what we begin to observe is the value they put to education. And so in that regard, there's a sense of transmittal of value as they go back home in the north for events, holidays, celebrations, ceremonies, what have you. They become gospels, they become ambassadors, so to speak, about a need to have children to go to school, girls particularly, because their own stories, which is a very solid one, now should not be repeated, and therefore try to get other girls to go to school. And so in that case, we begin to see large populations of girls across the country going to school, because these uneducated young girls who come from northern Ghana to southern Ghana just become porters, as you see in many developing countries. And their kids get the chance to be educated because the city of Accra works hard to get many of these kids to go to school, in addition to what volunteer groups do as well. And so, as I was trying to impress on, they themselves also, when they go back home, advocate for the need for girls to go to school. Because once girls go to school, they get some basic education, they will not have to come to southern Ghana to work as porters. So in that itself also becomes an influencing point in terms of the expansion of the child girl school nexus.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Kofi and Alejandra, for really showing us how it's very necessary to always pay attention specifically to girls, and their specific needs. Yeah, Perpetual, we see you now.
Yes.
If you wanna keep on going with your intervention, thank you so much.
Thank you. So what I was referring to was the campaign for female education, which is also a program that is run, especially in deprived selected schools, to motivate the female in these environments to also enroll in the school. And they have scholarship packages that sees them through from the basic to the secondary school and the tertiary. So these are some of the programs that are also run in addition to the general government packages, such as the free SHS, to ensure that the girl child is also educated. Thank you.
So much, and it's very important how you were saying how the basic things might be sometimes taken for granted, no? And if we, as local and regional governments, don't provide girls with their basic needs, then that becomes basically an existential crisis that hinders them to exercise their right to participate, to education, and to fulfill their dreams and aspirations. No, thank you so much. I would like to see if anyone else has another question, or if you want to give any last comment, Alejandra, Mr. Kofi, or Perpetual, before we wrap up the session.
So that's it. I mean, not much to say. I think Perpetual, well, I give you the mic at this point. Is there anything you want to say to wrap up?
Okay. So in summary, I think that Accra City is doing its best to ensure that education is participatory, and therefore people or the female or children and youth have the basic platforms to share their views, contribute to the democracy of the country, and also give feedback on the performance of government. And in terms of local community development and budgetary participation, yes, we can say that the local governments have done its best to ensure that each local office is fully decentralized. Or sorry, the ministries and the government agencies are fully decentralized to the local level. So when you visit a local office, you are going to get a department or a unit of every government agency or ministry to be able to give to the community how it looks like at the national level. So I think Accra City has done its best to make sure that these offices are functional. You can have the departments established, you can have the agencies at the local level, but if it is not functional, participation is going to be zero. So the Accra City has ensured that these ministries and their departments are well facilitated, are resourced to function at the local levels to give a voice to the voiceless. Thank you.
Thanks to you, Perpetual. Alejandra, do you want to give some last comments?
Yes, well, thank you for being here and also for the peers to share their experience. And well, I think as a last intervention, I would like to say that for participation to be like for children to participate, well, their basic needs need to be covered, and we have to find a way participation to be part of hearing children out to create more creative solutions to these inequalities and to these lacks in the basic needs, or in the lack of a system to give them to them. So being that said, I think basic needs need to be covered, and adequate care system that here in Mexico is in Nuevo León is trying to have a integral care system, and for that to be covered, it would promote participation in an easier way, or make participation part of these creative solutions with children and young people being heard in order to be able to cover these needs. So I think that's the last thing I wanted to say.
Thank you so much, Alejandra, for this very insightful intervention. And really thank you so much also for highlighting the importance of promoting a care system, at all levels, a multi-level care system. It is also key to really ensure the participation of these commonly neglected communities, such as children and youth, not only to help them access the right to participation, but basically to cover all their needs. And thank you so much again, Alejandra, Mr. Kofi, and Perpetual, for really sharing us your efforts, and for really reminding us of all the work that's been done at the local level. And no matter the context, certainly local governments are there at the forefront with the communities to make all their dreams and aspirations true, and to really include them. And before we close, Mr. Kofi and Perpetual, I would also like to ask you if you can please send us your video so we can upload it to YouTube, the video of the city, so our membership can also get to know the city. And yes, please, if you can also help us spreading the word about these peer learning sessions that we are organizing. Everyone is invited to hold one, to come and share their experience on any topic related to citizen participation. So this is the way that we contribute and feed in our global space that the IOPD is to all of you. So thank you so much. And Adria, do you want to give any final comment?
No, just thank you again for both of you for your presentation. It was really, really interesting, and congratulations for the work. So keep this work doing, and congratulations. And yeah, let's see you soon. Thank you very much.
Right. Okay.
Bye.
Enjoy. Thanks.